Hello, everybody. My name is Benny, and welcome to the Fool's Apprentice. We are here again to do our one tarot card study. Graciously, we have Afton who has come in to do the Hierophant with us. Hi, Afton. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good for what you said, 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday.
8 o'clock for me. Yeah.
Oh, is it 8 o'clock for you? You're, what are you?
I'm
Mountain?
in
Mountain.
Mountain Standard Time. Yeah, I'm in northern Alberta. So
And I'm getting used to the time zones a little bit better. I guess Mountain. Yes, I was right. Okay.
I know they're tricky.
Oh my gosh, I have made a few messes already with not confirming times. So we are here to do the Hierophant, but before we do you have any social media? Introduce yourself to the viewers and let us know a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Afton. I do have an Instagram right now. It's private. I've toyed with the idea of doing a tarot channel.
Oh
I
my
have a
God.
stack of tarot cards. I have a stack of decks, like literally right behind my computer here. I was thinking about maybe doing a video for the first time, so we'll see. Right now, my handle is Afton with a Z on Instagram. So
Okay.
yeah,
And I'll link it below in the description.
sure.
And I'm 100% do the video, go for it. We don't put people out there. I mean, the more the merrier is how I see it.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to the Hierophant, give me your take on the Hierophant up, not the reverse.
Sure. So the reason that I kind of wanted to talk about the Hierophant is that I feel like I have a sort of a off the beaten track take on it
Okay.
because I know like it's the idea of tradition, right? Like, and I think governance and kind of being restricted by like societal norms, right? Is typically what people think, religion, government. And I'm not a religious person in any way. So now I can't tell you what the day was, what deck I was using, what reading I was doing when I was like, oh, actually, no, that's like not what it means to me at all. It's this idea of soul contracts. I don't know if you've ever heard of that term.
I have not.
Okay, so for me, tarot was really linked into my spirituality. And so, with what I believe, there's this concept of soul contracts. So, when you are in your more soul form before you've reincarnated
Hmm.
into your physical body, you sign a soul contract. And so, that kind of outlines like who's going to be in your lifetime with you and for what purposes. Um, Major events that are going to happen. So, when you're going to be born, die, if you're going to have like any major accidents or illnesses, that kind of thing. And the purpose of that soul contract is because all of those things in your lifetime that will happen are there to facilitate whatever your soul is coming into this lifetime to learn.
Okay.
And yeah, so for me, it kind of started out by I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, the Hierophant, it was a wizened old man with a book. And I was like, oh, he kind of makes me think of like the keeper of the Akashic records, which again, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Not at all.
We should have started at the beginning, like, okay, what's the traditional? And then, okay, I'll kind of like sprinkle this stuff in. Um, but so then the Akashic Records is again this idea that everything is pre-recorded in the universe, energetically, I guess. So everything that has been, everything that will be, and everything that is happening right now in the universe, it's all recorded somewhere in like another dimension, I guess. So
Interesting.
when yeah, so they call them the Akashic or Akashic records. So it's like I guess this idea that everything is predestined
Hmm.
and time is not linear. Everything is going on all at the same time. So I saw that, picture of I don't know if it was like maybe an Anatolian deck. She's always got like those
Yeah.
old men with like the books. And I was like, oh, okay. That's yeah, he's like the gatekeeper to all of that knowledge, which really is what the Hierophant is,
Yes.
right? It
Yes.
was taking it out of that religious connotation and moving it into something much bigger that I personally could connect with, right?
That is very,
Yeah.
that is a brand new perspective for me. You actually gave me a lot of new information.
I know. I was like even thinking, how do I like explain? I had to like look up, go back and see like, okay, what exactly are the Akashic records so that I can explain this.
Yeah, but I think that's really good information. So for other people, they can go and do some research,
Yeah.
which I will go do. Because one of the things I'm doing is I'm going to do like a little community tarot guidebook where I take a tidbit from everybody and just include it in my own little guidebook
Oh, yeah.
that I utilize. So I will watch this back and, do some research and see what I can find that kind of fits for me when it
Yeah.
uh, matches a Hierophant. So the Hierophant for me also is this spiritual leader, like the highest form of a spiritual leader in our community, within our sect, within our city, within our world. I grew up Catholic, so for us, that would be the Pope. Has established rules, beliefs, values that people conform to. The Hierophant kind of is the card that lets you know that you're amongst people who believe the same thing or are
Hmm.
wanting to learn the same type of spiritual values. It's someone that you might go to for spiritual leadership. I mean, for me, the Hierophant really is a spiritual card. So I
Yeah.
don't really go outside of that very much. So if you are Buddhist, you might go to a Buddhist center or a temple to go sit with a Buddhist monk, or you could be a Catholic, sitting with your a priest or a bishop, so forth and so on. It really deals with conformity because you're going into an established group and you're just going to follow the rules as you learn them and as you move forward. The card also really represents this idea of being spiritually connected or wanting to be really connected. So, really
Mhm.
diving into the education that you were talking about, which you only can get from the gatekeeper. I love that you said
Yep.
that's a wonderful way because I think the cross the keys that cross at the bottom,
Hmm.
that really is for me the representation that he holds the keys to all this knowledge, being able to enter that spiritual realm. So yeah, and so when I think of the Hierophant, I really go into my child self and remembering what it was like to go to church, feeling that
Hmm.
sense of community and comfort and spiritual until it didn't, which is the reverse Hierophant.
Yep.
But yeah, that's what I got. Is that
Yeah.
really what you
I
hear about the Hierophant?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say that like in watching a lot of TarotTube and people who maybe have moved away from the religious
Mhm.
aspect of it is that they've I think a lot of people generally take like actually the reverse as their upright meeting. So
Yes.
like breaking away from
Mhm,
conformity.
mhm.
Um yeah, which is initially how I thought about it too, just not ever having been super religious myself.
Okay,
So
so let's talk about the reverse then. So for me, that is about, challenging the status quo.
yeah.
So like for me, the idea that in my religious upbringing, being a gay man was a sin and you were going to go to hell. There was no way to go to heaven. And then really having to work against that, which created a lot of internal turmoil, but got to a place where I just couldn't believe that that was true. I think that whatever this spiritual thing is bigger than that,
Mhm.
bigger than, and so getting to a place where I could believe that, I am as valuable spiritually as any other being on this earth. And then the idea of challenging the actual religion itself and going, I don't believe that. And so for me, shifting and becoming a Buddhist, and then
Mhm.
shifting again and becoming a Buddhist with a lot of Christian based values, which was a
Yeah.
very interesting thing to happen. So the reverse side really is somebody who is really starting to tap in to their own inner wisdom and belief system spiritually,
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily conform to society's views, but really provides them with a really strong base for them to grow spiritually. So
Yeah.
that's how I see it. How do you see the reverse?
Yeah, I see that really quite similar. I'll be honest, I don't typically read reversals in my readings. So, like for me, whenever the Hierophant comes out, I'm just like, oh, okay, I need to pay attention to whatever's going on right now in terms of like maybe this is like a huge life moment, like going back to that kind of soul contract
Hmm.
idea. So I kind of think of it as like that, I don't know. I need to take like a well, not even a magnifying glass. I guess it's the reverse, like actually like zooming out and looking at the big picture. So, but yeah, I would definitely agree with what you said about, breaking away from maybe like people's expectations or
Yeah.
um yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't read reversals only. For one, I'm still new and I don't have all the cards memorized. So I will have notes, when I do this series.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of them in a short time as well. Two is I think that you get all the information for me that you need in the upright position.
Yeah, with the context of the other cards, yeah.
Yeah, the context of the other cards, the energy that I get from the person is sitting in front of me, my intuition. I think my intuition, I really believe in my intuition. And so it would lead me down the right path. So if it comes up that you're not really aligning, or maybe it's time to kind of sit down and do formal study to find out what
Yeah.
fit, that will come up. Do you have any kind of definitions or meanings for the symbols, or you're a person that just kind of looks at the card holistically?
Yeah, not really. I would say that, this card, it can be kind of contentious, right? Because it has that religious symbology. You've got like the red robe. So I think like that can make people uncomfortable. Personally, myself, I don't really find that I have an issue with it. Like I would say that my personal meaning for the card is like vastly different from what is traditionally pictured, but I don't have an issue like when I'm looking like at a new deck or something. I'm like, "Oh, okay, it's like a picture of the Pope or, someone really religious." I guess I'm comfortable enough in my own, spirituality or my own understanding of the card that it doesn't really trigger me. But I'm curious to know, as like someone like yourself who, has Catholicism in their background, if there is anything like in the card that particularly like triggers you, or are you pretty good with it?
I think that's a really great question. So I think if I was in my 20s and would have this card, I would have a really, really hard time. And so this is what I think. If you've come to a place where you're comfortable with your spirituality, you have worked through, whatever issues that came before. This card necessarily won't bother you as much because there has been healing that has occurred. I would say that I was terrorized, and I don't use that word lightly, terrorized by the religion I was brought up in because I was a gay man or a young gay kid trying to figure it out. Then I went through a very angry phase with God and then with man because man represented God's word and went through this whole thing until I found my spiritual key that fit. And ever since then, I've been fine with the other people's belief systems. They don't bother me because I know for them, it is the right path. For them, it's what connects them to whatever spiritual belief system that they have, and it serves them well. So I'm okay with that. So when this card comes up, I don't have any of that baggage because I've come I've come to terms with everything that's happened. I do think that if something comes up, something to look at and probably something to work on
Yeah.
because it's always going to come up for you. And I think that it will always provide a different perspective on how you view the card than what the card means. And even then, that's kind of hard for me because whatever lens you look through it, it's the right one at the right that time. But
Yeah.
if it bothers you that much and it bothers you that you're bothered, then maybe doing some work with it would be
Yeah.
helpful.
Need to take a look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you could do that with tarot. I think you could create a spread, like you could create 4 or 5 spreads on how to work with a Hierophant uh,
Mhm.
in a way that becomes more peaceful or more calm for
Yeah.
you. And so yeah, that's how I see him. I will say that I also see him. He is not the king, but he has, I feel, as much power as the emperor because he is the leader of the spiritual world. And
Yeah.
people who will die for their emperor will also die for their Hierophant,
Okay.
their
That's
religion.
interesting.
Yeah, because there are people through time Joan of Arc, who
Mhm.
sacrificed her life for her religious beliefs. In the
Yeah.
Inquisition, people refused to say that they were a different religion, and they died on those principles. So I think that the Hierophant has an enormous amount of power within the tarot, because it is so ingrained spiritually within us, and many of us would die for our faith. So
Yeah.
him being on a somewhat of a throne, but really for me, it's that staff that kind of lets you know that he's the leader, he's the master of the spiritual realm.
Yeah. That's interesting because to be honest, I guess if there's anything that does bother me about like the traditional card, it is the fact that like I've got a card here, like
Oh
his
my
like
God.
the sub I came prepared, Benny.
Oh my God, I'm not prepared. What happened to my deck? Oh, it's right here. Oh my
But
God.
like, how he is so much higher up than like his supplicants below him. And
Yeah,
I guess for me, I'm like, I've always been of the idea like, yes, you can have a spiritual, I don't want to say leader, but someone that you go to for guidance, right? But you don't actually want to give them that much power. It's really what's inside of you and your own knowing and what um works for you that is what's important as opposed to what someone else is telling you.
yeah,
So,
and that goes with your belief system as well.
yeah.
Because traditionally, I think in the card, those two people are the ones that he is passing his education on to, who is indoctrinated
Hmm.
into that religion. And so, and then what will happen is as he teaches them and they grow within that um, religion, and he eventually passes, they will start to take over. So it's this idea of
Yeah.
passing down, the education, the traditions, like in Catholicism, standing up, kneeling down, sitting down, standing up, kneeling down. It's just, it's this repetitiveness. But you can also look at it within institutions as well.
Hmm.
Within businesses, you might have a morning huddle that you do every time. There's a certain way that you
Yeah.
have to do certain things. The culture could be very open where you can wear jeans and t-shirts, very formal. So it's like you could, in families, with American families, Thanksgiving, July 4th, those
Hmm.
that we follow. Also
Yeah. Yeah,
Christmas.
that's cool. I've never really thought about it like that, like taking it into like a familial context.
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
could have actually the matriarch or the patriarch of the family that
Yeah.
can represent the Hierophant. And so bucking the system within the family. Ooh, can you imagine? So tell me which your favorite. Oh, and this is from the Neo Writer. I'm going to use the Neo Writer throughout the whole series. It's my
Yeah.
favorite one. I love the colors. Look how rich that red is.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Love it. You have to excuse me. I
Oh, that's okay.
have allergies. So tell me your favorite Hierophant.
So I had it like narrowed down to like two. And so I'm going to give an honorable mention to the Spacious Tarot, the Hierophant with the standing stones. I think it's
Uh,
gorgeous. But the one that I've been using lately that I've really been drawn to is from the Lighted Window Tarot. It's
oh,
quite new. It's by Lindsay Hook. And I found out about it from watching one of Lisa Pepez's videos, like where she, oh my
this,
goodness, what is that series called?
this or that coming up.
Yeah, like one of the coming ups where she looks at like all the upcoming Kickstarters and stuff. So I backed the Kickstarter, but this is the Hierophant. Uh,
Go to your right. There you go. Oh, I like that.
yeah,
Seen it
so it's
before.
a
Do you have the box in front of you?
I don't have the box. I
Don't
have
worry
the
about it.
guidebook.
It's okay.
I have this. This is the guidebook.
Okay, to your right. Okay, the lighted window tarot. All right, I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. So what I really like about the deck in general is that I call it the Hermit's Journey instead of the Fool's Journey,
Ah,
because I pulled a couple of cards one time and I looked at it and I was like, oh, I pulled the Hermit, and I look at it again. I'm like, no, that's the Fool card. So it's what I find, especially with, and this card shows it as well, It's very like this to me gives off vibes of the hermit. Like it's a person sitting alone in front of a campfire,
Hmm.
just like meditating and looking into the light and seeing what comes to them. So I guess this kind of brings me to my next point about the Hierophant. I kind of, you look for these spiritual teachers, and then for me, I believe that we all have like a connection to God or source or our, our soul, our higher self, in another dimension. And so that we have that access to all that knowledge that you're hoping to gain. It's just you have to do the inner work to get there and to be able to access it. So that's why I really like that card is because
Very cool.
it's not looking at somebody else, it's looking into yourself to find those answers.
I do like that because, spirituality is so very personal.
Hmm.
It's what you rely on to help you get through those difficult times or to inspire you to move forward and develop the courage to take a chance and, just to bring peace and calm when there's chaos, to kind of like get
Yeah.
in the center of the hurricane, when things are really hectic. So I like that idea of looking within. Mine, okay, I have never been able to pronounce this deck correctly. It's an out of print deck. You can still get it. I love it. It is the uh, Akulai Akaltati Tarot. Have you seen this one
Hmm.
before?
I've seen that one from your channel actually before. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Love that. And I love it's very someone who's very, wise and older. It's this
Mhm.
black and white ideal of what either it's my way or the highway kind of idea, because religion can be very that way. Has
Mhm.
everything that I need, but I just love this image. It really does inspire spirituality for me in his
Yeah.
look.
Yeah, that's neat. You say black and white is like very like defined, like this or that, but you
Mhm.
could also look at it as like I can now color it with my own,
Yeah.
what I see, my own colors, I can fill in the blanks.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate you coming by and talking about the Hierophant with me.
Thank you for having me.
This is very enlightening. I really enjoyed your perspective on it. I am going to do some
Yeah.
research on a couple of things that you brought up. Like, what was it? The spiritual contract?
Yeah, a soul contract.
Soul contract. That I'm going to look that up. So, thank you so much. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, it was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you. Well, everybody, we got another card under our belt. My name is Benny. I am the Fool's Apprentice. Until next time, have a nice day. Bye.